Hi, it's Ingrid. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. It's time for another reading wrap-up. I don't think I did anything for July because I only read one book, so I'm going to include July and August in this video together. In total, I've read 6 books. Like I said, 1 in July, 5 in August. I'm going to start by giving you some stats. So in July I read 1 mystery. In August I read 2 mysteries, 2 fantasies and 1 romance. I also started a few books in August that I didn't finish. They're not DNF'd, I just haven't finished them. So I'm going to talk about those eventually, but we're going to start with my July book. So the first and only book I read in July was Wait. We're going to do things in order. So at the beginning of July I started Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez. I got 80 pages into this. I was having really high expectations to this because everyone speaks so highly of Abby Jimenez and her writing, and they say like her writing reminds them of Emily Henry. So I was really expecting a lot with this. Didn't love it. I didn't intend to DNF it. I went to Amsterdam, brought this with me, didn't read anything there, didn't read anything when I got back. So this book was just put away. The female character in this annoyed me. The male was fine. But my biggest issue with the female main character was that she kept asking questions to this guy, and he answered them, and then when he asked her back, she was refusing to answer. Like, you don't need to know that about me, and getting all defensive. And I just, why are you asking him if you don't want to talk about yourself? And I feel like the way she saw herself compared to him was just really annoying. Like, she was better than him. Like, I'm a doctor, I would never, like, why would I be with you? It doesn't make sense. You're just a small town boy. You're not that special. Obviously, I'm not very far into it, so I can't say too much about it. I'm hoping to be able to tell you my full review of this in September. I'm going to try really hard to get this done because I hate having unfinished books, and I don't want to DNF it because I don't think it's awful. And I think there's a chance for me to love it. I just need to get further into it. Now, the book I did finish in July was The Final Gambit by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. This is the 3rd and final book in the Inheritance Games trilogy. There are more books in this universe and I'm excited to get to those, but this is the last book in the original trilogy. This one I gave 4 stars. I enjoyed it. I like this world and I like the characters. The original characters. So it was fun to read another book in it. And I always enjoy the mysteries. In this one, we obviously follow the story after the events of the previous 2 books. So I can't really go into detail about the actual story without spoiling the previous books. But there's basically 2 mysteries in this. There's one for the whole group and then there's one that's just Avery's. I found Avery's mystery, her own, more interesting in the beginning. Towards the end I was interested in both, but the reason I didn't like the second mystery is because another character was introduced and I just didn't like that character. I found that person extremely annoying and I was very suspicious towards that person throughout the whole thing, and I feel like it messed up the dynamic between the original characters and I just didn't like that. But I still really enjoyed the book. This is my least favorite so far in the series, but it's still good. And I'm very excited to continue with the rest of the books in this world. But it wasn't a 5-star. Now, onto my August reads. I have my phone with some notes just in case I forget, because memory is not the best. I'm gonna go through all the books I've read and finished in August, and then we'll talk about the ones that I haven't finished yet at the end. So the first book I read was The Murder of Roger Acoid by Agatha Christie. This is the 4th Poirot novel, and I love that series. I love Poirot's character, I love Agatha Christie's writing, her storytelling, and I feel like all of her mysteries are always so interesting. I gave this one 4.25 stars. My first thought with this is it's kind of different because I don't know, I don't think this is a spoiler because you see it from the beginning, so I'm gonna say it anyways. Hastings isn't in this. Usually the books are told from Hastings' point of view. This one, there's another character, a stranger to Poirot, a stranger to us. If anyone comes at me for my pronunciation of Poirot, I don't want to hear it, because just ignore it. But anyways, I missed Hastings in this. My favorite part of this series is the relationship and the interactions between Poirot and Hastings, so missing that definitely lowered it for me. But still, I think this might be my highest rated Poirot book so far. I think the more I read, the more connected I get to the characters. I think, even though I missed Hastings, I think it was fun to see Poirot interact with a bunch of strangers, because usually he has Hastings with him, who obviously he's known for a long time. So you kind of get a new look on Poirot from a different perspective, which is fun. There were some lines in this that I found really funny. I'm not going to read them because then I'm going to have to go through it, but like, I've tagged a few places, which I haven't done with any of these books yet. I think the writing of these books are what makes it so great. Agatha Christie really is the queen of cozy mystery, and if you're looking for a good cozy mystery, this is perfect. I was definitely shocked at the end, not necessarily by the actual story and the turns that took, because I kind of was expecting that. I had some ideas and I was right. The person I thought did it ended up doing it, but what shocked me was the way Poirot reacted or revealed it. I obviously can't say because it's a spoiler, but there's one thing he said in this that was really mind-blowing to me. Like, I was not expecting that from him. Don't know what else to say without spoiling the story. Should I have told you what this is about? Absolutely. But basically, there's this woman. I'm just gonna read the back because I don't know how to explain it. The first thing that it says is, think you know who done it? Think again. Poor Roger Acoid. He knew the woman he loved had been harboring a guilty secret. And then, yesterday, she killed herself. But guilty secrets rarely stay secret. Who had been blackmailing her? Had it really driven her to suicide? Sadly, Roger Acoid wasn't going to live long enough to find out. So, there's a few different things happening in this, all leading up to one thing. Obviously, that's usually how mysteries go. But I think it's a good book and I do recommend reading it. I very recently purchased a few more of these books. Now I have 2 more. I'm very excited. I'm hoping to read them this fall because I love this series. The next book I read is a part of my favorite series ever, also written by my favorite author ever, and that is Hellbent by Leigh Bardugo. I gave this one 4.5 stars. It's not as good as the first one to me, but the more I think about it, I might actually give it a 5-star because I have been thinking about this constantly. I was reading another book and all I was thinking about, I need the next book in the series. I've never felt like a book hangover as much as I have from this book, this series, and I'm just constantly thinking about it. Like, I'm craving the next book so badly. But this one is the second in the series, so I can't really tell you much about the story of this one either. But the series follows Alex Stern, who gets invited to go to Yale to like oversee the secret societies, which basically deals with magic and ghosts and some dark things. The thing about Alex is that might be a spoiler, can't say that. But Alex is special. She has some abilities that other people can't. This isn't a fantasy in the way that you might think of a fantasy. There's like ghosts, like I said, other creatures, there's magic, but I would actually classify this more as just a paranormal mystery, paranormal horror. It's not a lot of fantasy elements if you look away from the magic. There was a little more in this one and then in the first book, but I think it's really fun. There are something that happened in the first book that we're kind of dealing with in this one, and we follow Alex and her friends trying to fix this thing. And in this one it's very different than the first one. because I feel like in this one Alex is way more confident and the characters know each other better, and they just really are working really hard to make this work when other people might stand in their way. At the beginning of this book I was a little annoyed by the time jumps. I didn't really like that. I felt like it was unnecessary and I didn't get enough of each story, but at the same time I didn't want more because some chapters were too long, it was too detailed. But then when we got further into the story I was grateful for the details because it was necessary. Maybe I got a little impatient. So I think the beginning of the book was a little slow, and that's what's basically lowering it from a 5-star to a 4.5. I think I need to talk about Leigh Bardugo's writing because the way she tells stories is just so good. Like, even in the beginning when I was a little bored with the story, didn't really love it, her writing just keeps pulling me along because it's so good. I think her writing just flows so well, and even the most boring things, she finds an interesting way to write it. I think the way she puts together sentences and makes the paragraphs interesting is just so good. And I'm obsessed. I need this book, even though at times I thought it was a little too long. Not necessarily the book, but the chapters were just too long. It was too drawn out. But when the book ended, I wanted more. I didn't want it to be over because I am so obsessed. This is my favorite series ever. I think these books are my favorites ever. Absolutely obsessed. Please, Leigh Bardugo, book number 3. I need it. The next book I read was not really a reread, but kind of a reread. But I read Demon in the Wood by Leigh Bardugo. I've read this in the back of Ruin and Rising when I read that book. This one is the same story, just as a graphic novel. So it's different but the same. So I know the story, just the format was different. I don't really have a rating for this one because I don't really know what to say. It's definitely not necessary. You don't have to read this if you're reading any of the Grishaverse books. But it is fun to see, I guess, if you are a lover of the Grishaverse, if you're a fan. I am absolutely obsessed with the Grishaverse. So it's fun to get a little extra something. The story in itself, not a lot going on. It's a very short story about the Darkling before he became the Darkling. It's just him as a child traveling with his mother, and you kind of see a little bit about what made him turn into the person he is, like why. I feel like you understand him a little bit better, but it's very short and not much is going on, so it's kind of useless, kind of interesting. I liked it. I think the book in itself, gorgeous. I think the illustrations are pretty cool and they're pretty. So I liked it. I'm glad I read it and I'm glad I own it. But it's not really anything special. You don't have to read this to read the other books. It's just a little extra something. Next up, I read Northern Lights by Philip Pullman. I've had this for a while. Do I have the date? No. This is one of those books that I picked up simply because I wanted to. I feel like a lot of the books that I've had for a long time I bought because they were talked about, because they were very popular on TikTok, on YouTube, all of that. This one I bought because I wanted it myself, hadn't really heard anyone talk about it. I read this in a video reading Ben Barnes' favorite books. I was disappointed. I gave this one 3 stars. Could potentially have given it 2 stars. Like, I'm still questioning, am I being too nice by giving it 3 stars? I think the main reason I'm giving it 3 stars, I'm saying that way too much, but the main reason is because I want to read the next book. And it doesn't make sense to give it 2 stars and then want to continue. But the thing is, in the beginning, like the first chapter, I was interested. I wanted to know what was going on. When Lyra got to do her little thing, I was interested. What bothered me the most was the writing of the book. Like, the story was fine. It's just the way it was written. And I think maybe some of that was like a stylistic choice made by the author. He wanted to do it that way, and it just didn't connect with me. I think, might be wrong, but I think he was trying to give the different people different accents. And it just annoyed me so much, because the grammar was wrong, the structure of the sentences was wrong. And I get it, it's the accents. You're trying to make them talk like the different people talking in different ways. I get it. I just didn't enjoy it. Because when I'm reading it, it makes it very difficult. And I think maybe me not being a native English speaker, English is my second language, I think I pay attention to those things more because I have to be more careful when I'm talking to make sure I say the right thing. So maybe that's just a me problem, but I really hated the way it was written. There were also some chapters I felt was so unnecessary. It's so drawn out. I didn't need these details. I feel like there was so much dialogue. And you didn't really get to see everything happen. Camera batteries flashing. I hate this. Not the book. How every time I turn on the camera, batteries flashing. We're gonna try our best to get through this. Now, there was so much extra information, filler pages that wasn't necessary, and it was just a little too drawn out. Towards the end, I was definitely way more interested. There was... when the action was going on, I wanted to know that. I was a little disappointed by the end by the choices of the characters. Some characters I liked ended up being worse than I thought. And I didn't like that because I was hoping to see more of that character. Now, I still want to continue the series because I want to know how Lyra's story ends. Lyra, the main character. I didn't tell you what the book was about. I'm just gonna read the back because I don't know how to explain things. Lyra and her animal demon live half wild and carefree among the scholars of Jordan College, Oxford. Her destiny will take her to the frozen lands of the Arctic, where witch clans reign and ice bears fight, and the extraordinary journey that awaits her will have immeasurable consequences for beyond her own world. I don't think that gives you very much. But the book doesn't really give you very much either. 3 stars, 2 stars, don't know. The last book I finished in August was Book Lovers by Emily Henry. I gave this one 4 stars. I definitely didn't love it as much as Beach Read, but I think I like the characters more, especially the man. The girl, not so much. But this one is about Nora, who's a literary agent, and then Charlie, who's an editor, I'm pretty sure. They don't really get along. They had one meeting where things just didn't go well. Later, like, they don't see each other. Nora and her sister goes away on a vacation to the small town where their favorite story, like one of Nora's clients, her sister's favorite story is written by Nora's client, and it's set in a small town. They go there. The sister has like a list of things they want to do. I feel like the plot was very weak. Not much was going on. I feel like the sister had more of a story than Nora did. The only thing that kept me interesting was the interactions between Nora and Charlie, because I absolutely adore Charlie. I think he's perfect. The story, not much was going on. Towards the end, we got more of Nora's reasoning for being the way she is. I feel like the plot wasn't really there. The interactions between Nora and Charlie was the main focus, and Nora's anxiety with family and all of that was a big part of this, and I enjoyed that. Some of Nora's choices and some of her thoughts and actions didn't sit right with me. I just didn't like it. I get that where it comes from, and you get more of an understanding of that towards the end when you see like the reason for her anxiety, why she acts the way she does. Personally, I think the plot was lacking a bit, and I think it would have been a 5-star if the plot was better. But it's still good, and I think Charlie is a perfect book boyfriend. Emily Henry's writing is really good. This is kind of the same thing I said with Leigh Bardugo, but even if the story was boring sometimes, the writing is so good that it's just so easy to read that you keep getting pulled along in the story. So I gave it 4 stars. I think Emily Henry does a great job at giving her characters depth, which I think is good. So when the story is lacking, at least we have the characters, and it's more character driven than plot driven, which is fine. I just don't think that's for me. But I still enjoyed it and love Emily Henry. Now, the books I did start this month but didn't finish is Catching Fire, the second book in the Hunger Games series. I'm doing a reading vlog of this, so I will be continuing this very soon. so the camera did in fact die. So we're a lot later now. Angle might have changed. If you can see the mess on my bed, I'm trying to cut out some pictures because I started a scrapbook. But now, on to the rest of the books that I've started but haven't finished yet. The Rule Book by Sarah Adams. This one follows, I don't remember their names, but the girl is a sports agent. The guy is a sports player. He's on the same team as the main character in the cheat sheet. And I read the cheat sheet in June and I really liked it. This one, they have history together. They kind of hate each other. She ends up being assigned to him to be his new agent. He's not having it. Yeah, he tries to make her life miserable, getting revenge on her, but she doesn't give in. She keeps trying. It's a really bad explanation, but I don't really know. I'm not that far into it. The reason I put this down is because the girl was just getting on my nerves. All of the characters, both of them, there's two, both of them were really annoying. The girl especially, because she couldn't stay serious for any amount of time. Like, this man hates her and she keeps making jokes when he clearly doesn't want to hear it. And this is their job. They're in a professional setting. If they were meeting up outside of that, I would get it. But when you're in a professional meeting and you can't be serious, keep making jokes and just joking about things when he's clearly hurt by you, she's very unprofessional, and I couldn't handle it because it just made me angry, so I put it down. Then I picked up Normal People by Sally Rooney. I did this one in a reading log as well. Ben Barnes' favorite books. I just really disliked this one. I hated it. She doesn't use quotation marks, which is annoying already, but it's also so boring. Like, I don't care about anything. I don't care about the characters. I don't care about the story. There's barely any story in it. There's time jumps. You go like, you get a little chapter and then 3 weeks later, 2 months later, 2 weeks later, and there's just nothing important in here. There's nothing that makes me feel connected. The girl is like very rich, but in high school she doesn't have any friends. She's alone. The guy isn't very rich. His mother works at the girl's house as a cleaner. In school he's very popular. Then they go off to university and they meet again, and then nothing happens, and they keep meeting, and it's just annoying, and it's just boring. Then I started The Crow Trap by Anne Cleves. This is the first book in the Vera series. I can't really tell you much about the books because I'm barely into this. I'm 28 pages in. But I've seen the TV show, absolutely love it, watched it a few times, grew up watching it, recently rewatched it with my mother. One of my favorite shows. But that follows Vera Stanhope, who's a chief detective in the, what's it called? Northumberland Police. And she just solves cases. This one, we haven't gotten to that part yet. This far, I'm pretty bored. I'm 28 pages in, so like I'm not expecting much, but I'm not enjoying it. I'll talk more about this in my September wrap-up. I haven't really put this down willingly. I went on a school trip, so I didn't have time to read. But now I'm back, and I can continue. So, I'm hoping to finish it in September. I probably will. I'll be reading it again soon. As soon as I start reading. But that's all the books I read in July and August. Hopefully, September is a better reading month for me. I want to read, I'm excited to read. I have some books I really want to read this fall. I'm considering filming a fall TBR video. I'm not completely sure, but I'm thinking about it. But that's it for now. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. If you've read any of these books, I would like to hear your thoughts on them. If you've read something else, I would like to hear your thoughts on that as well. So, talk to me. I want to hear your reviews, your thoughts, what you read. Also, I would really appreciate if you subscribed. But that's it for now. I'm gonna go. I'll see you next time. Peace out, lovers.